Once you do one home, you know you never want to do one again because it's a waste of time. You want to do a minimum of 2 at a time. You got to build a business model that's recession proof. People try to push deals and they try to convince themselves that it's a good deal even if it's not.
The shortest cycle in real estate would be wholesale. Flip, it's 3 to 6 months. A rental, couple of years. A development is 5+ years. What's the best way to make big equity in today's market?
Is big and affordable.
What's up, well bidders? Today, I have got a guy who's doing a ton of ground up construction. In fact, he has built over 1,100 units. He's got hundreds coming up next year in 2024. He's doing adaptive reuse, taking these office spaces and turning them into something completely new. I've got Jerome Maldonado. What's up, man?
How you doing, bro? How's everything?
It's good to see you again, man. Thanks for changing your flight so you could come on the show.
Yeah, no. Anytime a good friend asks me to do something like that, bro, I'll make accommodations.
There we go.
You know, times like this, it's good.
I appreciate you. So, you know, we just held a meetup on Friday. It was good.
It's good.
A lot of fun. And then, you know, we were just talking, and I know maybe like in your real estate career, you probably got started doing some of the fix and flips and stuff before branching into this, or how did it go for you?
Yeah, you know, in '98, I got into concrete and I started buying rental houses. And so we were doing more like buy and hold, more like the burst strategy before burst strategy was popular. Mm-hmm. And then in the 90s, I was doing multi-level marketing. We were doing training centers. So I started, when I was forced with my concrete company to get an office, I bought a retail center and I used the same business model that I was using in multi-level marketing. We'd do training centers. I would lease desk space because I sucked at multi-level marketing, but I could make money leasing desks. So that I got good at.
So you're doing the WeWork model before it was a thing.
Yeah, bro. I was exactly. And what we were doing is I landed up saying, okay, well, shit, if I have to get a building for my construction company, I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I'll just buy one that's bigger than I need, lease it, and let the tenants pay for it. And it was as simple as that. I know a lot of people complicate the whole real estate thing. And for me, it was just about not being rent free.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into commercial real estate, was doing a owner finance deal on an old piece of junk building. And I put it back together where it looked beautiful, beautified the outside, gutted the inside. And I'm still in the same office. I've been in that office for 25 years.
Whoa.
Yep. So
that's crazy.
Yep. So it's been a great business model. In fact, I was just talking to one of your gentlemen just a bit ago, and I said, I love coming into like your office, Grant's office. Cody's now doing it. You know, I've been into a bunch of your guys' office. You guys have expanded. I'm sitting back going, damn, my stuff has cobwebs on it. I need
25 years.
Dude, I got to grow, man. And it's
when's the last time it was renovated?
Well, we've renovated throughout. You know, we've made changes. Like we've done podcast rooms. You know, we own the whole building. So we had a dance school in there for my wife at one point in time.
Wow.
For 11 years.
I can't imagine all the businesses that have been in it over 25 years.
Yeah, there's been a lot. Yeah.
How many square feet is like the total building?
That building's 12,000 square feet. The total building is.
Got it.
And so we occupy a little over 3,000 square feet of it.
Okay.
And so we've definitely outgrown it in its time. But we also have another building down the road that we also use for our construction company as well.
Got it.
So we've bought more real estate down the street. So it's not all in the same building, but we still occupy the original space we did 20 plus years ago.
Got it. That's crazy. I think we have about 12,000 square feet between the two offices.
Yeah.
But so you start off in commercial because you're a well, actually, I got to hear about this multi-level marketing. So what were you trying to sell?
Dude, we were selling water filters and vitamins back in the 90s when there was no water filtration. There was Evian water and distilled water, and we were selling water filters. So if you remember the old PVC pipes with a little spigot that came out, was NSA. We were a spinoff from NSA. And I actually landed up crushing it a few years into it. I was in the company for 5.5 years. First 3, I totally sucked. And then the last 2.5 years, I actually became a top money earner. But it took me 3 years of literally making nothing to finally get there.
So how did you learn to actually, I mean, would you say multi-level marketing is more marketing or sales? Like what is it?
It's both. I mean, there's a marketing component to anything that we do, right?
Right.
But everything we do is sales.
Yeah.
So the second that we come face to face, everything that we do is sales from that point forward.
Marketing just gets you like the opportunity to make a sale.
Yeah, I think people mistake marketing as a way to sell. Marketing is misconceived though, because when I was a big Subway franchisee. We were one of the largest in the Southwest for a long time. And I used to tell people marketing is to drive traffic. What you do from there forward is how you retain your customers. And so sales is an art that you do to create relationships so that you can retain people, right? Marketing is just to get the people. And then what you do from there forward is all sales.
So you do the multi-level marketing thing, you sucked, and then you said 3 years later you were good. What changed?
A lot of mindset. You know, we all go through our education system. And I come from a family that my parents built their lives from sweat equity and education, right? And they came from below average means for sure. And so even if you don't know that you've been brainwashed into what's been taught to us in school, you have been. And so we're our biggest enemies in success. Everything that we do, 99% of our failures happen within our own internal mind. It's not what's out there that doesn't work. I went to a training called Journey Beyond Perception that I paid $3,000 to be in back in 1995. And when I got back from that training, my whole mindset changed. And it was a training that took me back to childhood, and it beat you up. And a lot of it was stuff that was old school Tony Robbins stuff from way back in the day. And it was perspective that changed. That's the only thing that changed was perspective on money.
Wow. So I don't want to go too much into multi-level marketing, but one thing I've noticed is it seems to me like a lot of guys, because how old are you?
I'm 49.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of the guys I know that are like, let's say mid 40s to mid 50s, we're in multi-level marketing in this entrepreneur space at one point. You know, it's like, and they'll never talk about it. You know, Patrick Bet-David, Ed Milet, you're talking about it right now. There's other guys, right? And like, if you ask them, like, it's not like they'll deny it. It's like, yeah, you know, it's just, it is what it is, or they'll call it something different, but it is, you know, it's multi-level marketing, right? Yeah. So why do you think it was so big back then? And then did it have a negative connotation that it has today?
It's already has a bad connotation from the old Amway days of being like illegal pyramid schemes, but Amway's still around, right?
Dude, like, the Amway guys are the funniest.
Dude, oh man, it's fun.
I've got a mentor. They're 29 and they've already made it. They're financially free. Yeah. I'm like, what are they talking about?
I'm sitting back going 20. I'll hear people that I'm retired. I'm 24 years old and this retired me. And I'm going, shit, man, I'm about to turn 50. I'm not, dude, I'll never retire, you know? Yeah. I was reading the story about the owner of Treasure Island. I just get intrigued, you know? So I was reading his story and I was like, shit, man, this guy, he's going about to turn 90 and he's still at it, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what keeps him alive though.
Yeah.
You know, he has a 5-year-old. He has like a 7-year-old. Yeah, bro.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Yeah. Now that's an extreme, bro.
Yeah, that's funny.
But you know, but anyways.
But yeah, like you said, Amway's still around.
Yeah.
They're somehow still doing it.
That gave me my foundation. I'll tell you, it opened my mind to a whole different world. And it actually built a lot of mental strength in me. And that's what's been able to give me the resilience to doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
Because once you get past, you tip the needle and you get over the whole mindset thing, then making money's not hard. It becomes a game, you know? And once it becomes a game and it becomes fun, you have choices, you know? So life's evolved, right? We've done a lot over the course of the last 25 years, 30 years that I've been self-employed.
Well, you know what's crazy is the general public would think multi-level marketing is like, whatever, it's a scam or this or that. And then the more I've been in business and the more I've met like good entrepreneurs like Ed or Patrick or yourself, and then I see that at some point they had this training, you know, in multi-level marketing, or, you know, I just even look at today and I'm like, okay, well, people are building these downlines in, you know, solar, in insurance, in pest, it's all the same thing. Yep. You know, EXP, they're all multi-level marketing, and, you know, some have, like, they don't have bad reps. It's just like, people just don't really understand it's the same thing.
They just call it direct sales. You know, it's
building your team.
Relabeled.
You're building your team.
Yep. We used to call it building our downline, right?
Yeah.
All it is a corporate hierarchy, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, where you have people that are at the top that are making the most money, and then you have a dilution of sales and distributors that are down below you. but you're making revenue off of all of them. It's just the same as any type of corporate hierarchy that's out there.
Yeah. You know, if you have sales managers getting an override on their sales team, and it's all the same.
Same thing.
Yeah. So that's why it's just funny to me when I hear people get tripped up about it. And I'm like, look, I don't have any multi-level marketing things except like within my own company, I guess, right? Just with corporate hierarchy, but I'm not recruiting anyone to go do things for me. But then again, you know, you kind of are, because people affiliate my stuff and whatever else too.
Yeah, we still are though. You know, and I take all that training because I utilize little bits and pieces. Like I was a grocery store manager when I was in high school, moving into college, and I still take the fundamental stuff of cash handling, and I used it in all my traditional businesses when we owned restaurants and when we've owned coffee shops and beauty salons and dance schools and everything else. I've taken those fundamentals and I've utilized them. So just like with multi-level marketing, bro, we're still utilizing the fundamentals of what we've learned over the course of time.
Yeah. So before we get into like how you got into new builds, you mentioned you were a Subway franchise owner. You just said, hey, we owned restaurants. Like, why'd you do all these different things?
Well, different reasons, right? This whole Subway thing was more after the Ray Kroc model. It all kind of ties to the real estate. The beauty salons and the Subway stores directly tie to the 2008 recession and my ability to get through it. And so the other stuff that we've done, like everybody else, Ryan, I mean, I have when I was younger, I had shiny objects, and I was looking for a good business that made a ton of money with the least amount of work. And you know what I found out?
That's the dream.
Yeah, it's the dream. And I just found out over the course of doing this my whole life is that money comes from whatever you put energy into.
I thought you were going to say, you know what I found out? Subway. That's the answer.
Yeah, right. I wish, man. Deep in the back of my mind, I was going, man, I hope these things are simple. I hope they just crush it, and I can just get rid of everything else.
All you need is bread, turkey, cheese, and you're good.
A little bit of mayo and mustard.
Yeah, just like it's the easiest business ever.
Basics. Yeah.
I see how they sold so many.
Yeah, but bro, they're not very profitable. I mean, we would net about $1 million a year, but we had a lot of stores. So, but the average store made about $70,000 a year.
How many stores did you have?
We had at our biggest. We had 15 stores, 13 that we were running, 2 that we had offloaded on owner financing, but we had 15 stores that we ran and operated. Whoa. So, and we got into them in the 2008 recession because I was building retail ground up. And my buildings went empty. Like we would finish them, and all the tenants were gone.
You decided I just got to fill them myself.
Yeah, I had to fill them. So I put beauty salons and Subway stores, and then we would sell off the stores to other franchisees and keep the leases.
Oh,
but we.
So you were always like a real estate guy. You were just building businesses for the real estate.
I'm more of a business guy, but I've gotten labeled as a real estate guy over the years, and I still think of myself as just an ordinary entrepreneur, you know. I mean, I'll do what it takes to make a difference. It's just that the needle mover for me has been real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in the ground up game in construction. Bro, I've wanted out of the business since I started it, man. In all honesty, I'm like, shit, I don't even know how I'm still here. But it's been a blessing because nobody that I know has the diversified experience from the construction end to the real estate investing end to the brokerage side of it and everything internally. And it's been such an attribute to my success in our business is all those moving pieces. And they came from really a necessity that I needed to have in order to have my business successful because I didn't have anything, right? So I didn't have no money so I would try to keep all the money internal within the company. And so over the course of time, we just continued building and developing businesses from brokerage firms to construction companies to development firms to asset management firms, everything internally. And so now we do all of it, you know.
So you guys are very vertically integrated on everything that you do. You guys are the construction. You guys are also the investors, the acquisition.
The development team.
Yep, you guys are the asset management once it's done. So you literally monetize every bit of it.
Yeah, now we're outsourcing. So we're a partner with like Vertical Street Ventures. They'll take care of the asset management in order to scale. Because internally, you can only do so much when you get to a certain level as well. So strategic partners are important. But until 2018, we kept 100% of it internal.
Wow.
And then in 2018, but the difference is in 2018, depending on how you valued our assets, we were probably worth between $25 and maybe $40 million, depending on how the assets were evaluated. And since then, we've scaled our portfolio up to over $600 million. And so just over the last 5 years, and that's through strategic partnerships and allowing us to not just keep everything internal, but to bring in good partners and that really specialized in those areas to help us grow.
Yeah.
So that's been integral.
Where are all the units being built at?
Mostly Phoenix. I got stuff going up in Washington State. Tacoma. We started on the Tacoma, now Kirtland area. I have some stuff in the Albuquerque Rio Rancho markets, which is Rio Rancho is a sub market. It's like the Fort Worth of Dallas. It's the Rio Rancho is that to Albuquerque. So we have a lot of aerospace going in over there. So there's a lot of growth there. And then we have some stuff down in California that's going in down in Desert Hot Springs area, but predominantly Phoenix area and now Albuquerque and then Washington State. Those are our 3 big areas.
And you live in Albuquerque, right?
I live just outside of Santa Fe.
Okay.
Just outside of Albuquerque.
And what made you pick Phoenix?
Phoenix has been good to me. So we were doing construction in Phoenix when the market was down in the early 90s and on the rise. And then we left Phoenix in about 2004 because the market was so good at home. We didn't even need to go anyplace. But then when the market got crushed in 2008, we started buying a ton of distressed assets in Phoenix. And it just became a haven for investment for us in 2008, 9, 10, all the way to 2012.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is like, obviously buying real estate's one thing when you're investing in other states, but to also run a construction company in another state, what's that like?
That's tougher. That's tougher. That's where the stress comes in.
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, dude, if I had to create my own company and hire and cruise versus just hiring a GC who's local, who's already got it all, it's a lot of work. So
and that's part of our growth in 2018. So now we're getting general contractors. 7J does a lot. Toll Brothers is doing stuff for us.
Got it.
And so now we had a GC in Washington State, but because of the downturn in the market with interest rates, we didn't fire him, but he got to an end point of one of our projects, and we onboarded our own superintendents. But I have a partner up there too. So my partner runs a lot of that. I make a pit stop about once a month up there, and really usually kind of just create dust in everything that we're doing more so than anything. But at home in New Mexico, I still GC a lot of our stuff.
Really?
Yep.
So what does that mean when you say you still GC it? Like, what are you actually doing?
So my company, we actually onboard the superintendents, the foremans, the employees, the staff, the whole 9 yards. So we're doing the land entitlements, which we do on about 100. We do them on 100% of our projects now, no matter where they are. We still take the land entitlement side of the business internally because we're good at it. We're good at the land entitlement side. We're great at getting the projects out of the dirt and getting them through permits. Mm-hmm. And we even do that in alignment with our GCs. But then at home, we actually are the ones that are hiring the subcontractors. We're actually the ones that are sourcing the materials, the labor, everything.
So are you, like, what is your role as the business owner in all of this? Like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
I spend time building a personal brand.
Yeah.
I spend more time doing a personal brand.
So are you on job sites and stuff?
I am. I still love that. That's what I love. I love being out there. Just by nature, I'd rather be outside and I'd rather be on the job sites. And if I get a chance and I'm out there, I'll even run transits with these guys and I'll still run grades with them and everything.
What is a transit and a grade?
The tripods with a little eye on it that you see that like the survey guys on.
Got it.
And because we still run our concrete companies. We still have a full-time concrete company that's pouring concrete every day still.
I heard concrete is lucrative.
It's super lucrative. I won't get rid of it. I want to, but it's so lucrative I won't.
Why is concrete so much more lucrative than other trades?
The decorative side for us is what's extremely lucrative. So we do a lot of the decorative stuff.
Just people's backyards and all that stuff.
Yeah, on the residential standpoint, but even on commercial. We get a lot of commercial stuff where it's just really financially lucrative. Where a lot of trades, you might be working on a 10 to 15% margin. We'll work on a 30, 35% margin.
Yeah, I've heard that.
So it's, we'll do, for every million you bring in, you bring a few $100,000 to the table.
Yeah.
That you take home. It's a good business.
Yeah. So, any 30% margin business is a good business.
Yeah, it's a good business.
And so that's been your main thing for like 30 years.
It's been our bread and butter. That's been our saving grace. That's pulled us out of a lot of weather times during the downturns of the real estate market because it's continued to cash flow. So we've been able to service debt with it. We've been able to grow with it. It has been our saving grace in business for sure.
You've been through a lot of recessions and ups and downs, little mini recessions. And
Yep.
I mean, you went through the Great Recession, the biggest one we've ever seen. And then I would say like these last 18 months have been like a mini recession in my eyes. COVID was a interesting thing.
Yeah.
Like, how has it been, like you just said, having that concrete business and having these other businesses is really what got you through them when the real estate couldn't?
Yeah, I think people are always looking for an exit, as I was. We learn a lot over the course of time. There's no substitution for experience. You know what's funny, though, is I have friends that should have the experience that still make stupid decisions because they're still looking for an easy way out, even in their 40s and 50s. And I've thank God that I've been persistent and stubborn enough to keep the hard businesses, because the hard businesses, which the concrete company is, has continued to pay. And so I always tell people, you know, and I said in front of the room the other day at the meetup, I said, look, the whole saying about when you do what you love for a living, you never work a day in your life. I say it's such a bullshit statement, because the second you do what you love for a living, it becomes work. And anything work that you're going to put time into, it's hard. You know, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be good and bad. It's like marriage, you know, marriage. Yeah. You look at people with a 50-year marriage and you admire it, but what else was involved in that 50-year marriage to get them there, you know? And so I always tell people, just focus your energy on what's lucrative and stay focused on it. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You know, there's going to be up times. There's going to be great markets where you cash flow great. And there's going to be other times where your margins are smaller. But if you stay in it the long haul and you're doing something lucrative, it'll always give back in dividends.
Yeah, you just got to figure out how to weather the storm.
Yeah, that's it.
How do you weather the storm? A lot of people are going through the storm right now. I would guess 80% of plus people in real estate are in the storm.
Yeah, they are. You got to be diversified too, though. You know, so I say stay focused on it, but don't just. You got to have some diversification in what you do as well, because there's going to be. And I learned that in multi-level marketing. One of my mentors, he said, "Look, you know, if you got 10 good distributorships, he said you might have 5 that are mediocre and 3 that are crushing it and 2 that are just having horrible months. But because you have 10, you know, you're always okay." And so in business, I've always done that. So I've never had just one business. We've always had a multitude of businesses at any given time. So when you tell a story and you go, I thought you, like in 1998, I thought you were just doing concrete. Yeah, but we were also figuring out the ground up game. We were building a house at that time.
You were testing.
Yeah, we're testing stuff, right?
You weren't great at it yet, but you're figuring it out.
Yeah, we're figuring it out. We're going to see what's lucrative.
Then they kind of aligned already. You had some experience to be able to, you weren't trying a whole new thing.
Sometimes we were. I mean, like in 2000, we bought our first building. I was like, okay, I got space and I got everything else leased. Let's open a coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
So that was new. That was interesting.
Well, how'd that go?
It actually didn't go bad. We were making about 30 grand a year, and then
30 grand a year.
Yeah, right. So yeah, you sit back, you're like 30 grand a year, like, can I make that in a day? But back in 2000, you're like, okay, it ain't costing me money. It's making a little bit. It's not worth my time, but we're making 30 grand a year. So I said, so instead of giving up on it though, I said, okay, we need more of them. And so I landed up opening 4 of them. And actually, when we opened up 4, we actually landed up making more money. And it even helped the one that was only making 30 grand a year get up to like 80 grand a year, which wasn't great, but it was still, it was still making more money.
Yeah.
And what I landed up doing was I sold them off like you do a piece of real estate. So you take them with a $30,000 investment, you sell them for $180,000 a piece. You didn't make a lot of money on the business, but after just a few years, we still landed up exiting them for a profit.
Yeah.
You know?
So you like selling these like small little retail businesses. That's what it sounds like.
What would happen is, I don't think it was that I liked selling them. I liked the fact that I wanted out of them because they weren't very lucrative.
Yeah.
And I was able to exit them at a profit.
Yeah.
So it just became an exit strategy more than anything. And to me, you just got to make a profit doing anything that you're doing. Like if I put my time into it, okay, I'm like going, how do I get an ROI that even just remotely makes sense? Otherwise, I feel like I've wasted all my time.
Yeah, you sound like me in that I'm willing to take a win. Like I've always had a flipper mentality of like, hey,
yeah,
there will be more. Like I ain't worried about that, because there are some people who are like, I'm never selling anything. And then I would say I'm on the other end of the spectrum where I'm like, anything is for sale. You know, if there's the right price, if there's the right situation, if it's no longer an opportunity that serves me, let's keep moving.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And what it really comes down to is the freedom of my time, because if it consumes my time, my talents are better used elsewhere where I can be more profitable and lucrative doing something better, financially more affluent, than something that's tying my time down that's not as lucrative. So, but yeah.
So how are you treating these ground up? Are you treating them like, hey, we want to, because I have friends who are doing a lot of ground up at like really big scale, and they raise hundreds of millions of dollars to build, and because they have investors, they must exit within the next 5 years and get the investors their principal and a return back. Is your plan similar, or are you trying to hold them for a long time? How's your structure?
We hold everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So ours is different. So let me, I'll kind of just in a nutshell, just throw it out at you, what we're doing. So I started doing the big ground up game. When I say big, we're doing, and nothing that we build is under 100 units. Everything is, now is really over 200 units. And so when we go in, our builds are $50 to $70 million builds. And our whole business model is to buy the land, and we raise capital to buy the land.
Okay.
Then we entitle the land and we collateralize it. Now, the last 2 years have changed our business model a little bit, where we have had to give a little bit of equity away, but we hadn't been giving any equity away. What we've been doing is just raising debt from our investors for the land, and we go get our construction loan because of the value we bring through the land entitlement. So if we paid $2 million for a piece of land, once it's entitled for 200 units, that land might be worth $6 million. So then we might have to raise a little bit of a capital reserve, interest reserve, and we might have to raise a small amount to fulfill our 80% loan to cost to build it. But we also go to the bank with a retail budget. So we just have to show the liquidity to the banks, and then we're able to collateralize the land as part of our equity, and then we go in and build the asset, and then once we stabilize it, everybody's exited out on our debt investors, no equity investors, and I keep 100% of my assets. And so I've been doing that forever.
Yeah.
So the last 2 years is the first time that we've given a little bit of equity away, only because of the market. And
just changed. Because it's harder to raise money.
It's harder to raise money, but it also kept our build safe too. So my whole, you gotta, there's a level of greed that goes into things, and I think it kills people sometimes too. So I could have been extremely selfish and stubborn and said, I'm going to continue raising debt. But the debt was so expensive, it really put a high liability stake on my builds. So you sit back and go, okay, do I just stay stubborn in spite of knowing that it's going to be a high liability? Or do I just say, okay, let me relinquish a little equity, give out a little bit and distribute a little bit of equity and still make profits, because our profits are still lucrative, and continue going, like continue moving, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it like halts and bottlenecks everything. Because capital is harder to raise, and the projects do become a lot more high risk when we're taking on so much debt at a very expensive price. And so taking on equity investors, it dissolves the debt liability, and I'm able to continue building, and then they get paid on the back end like I do. So we did change the business model a little bit, but now with interest rates going back down, we're hoping that we can get back to our normal business model here sooner than later.
What do you think about, I guess, at scale, right? Because like, how are you raising money now? I'm sure it's just like mom and pop, friends, family.
No, I never did 506B. I never did syndications under friends and family except for once, and it was a pain in the ass. And so and before, now this year we're doing it again.
Okay.
But prior, we got away from it because there was a 6-month threshold that once we did a 506B, I couldn't do a 506C with accredited investors. And it really put a hindrance in our ability to raise capital. And the small mom and pop investors that come to the table with $50,000 to $100,000, God bless their hearts, I love them, right? But it takes a long time to raise $9 million with $50,000 at a time. Yeah, it's a lot of phone calls, a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
and that's where I've partnered with people too, because I have a threshold of an ability to raise capital, and there's people that have there's other multifamily syndicators that they have a bucket of investors that makes it a lot easier. So if I can just build them and I can put the bucket of capital raise on them and give a third of my asset away to somebody that raises capital, I can do 3 times more development than I can on my own.
Right.
So it just makes sense financially to do it that way. So I've done that over the last 5 years.
Okay. So, and that's kind of what I was getting at. So how are you just basically pushing out your capital raising to all these other guys now? Are you trying to even raise yourself anymore?
We still do our webinars. And so what we'll do is we'll bucket out some to them, and we'll do a webinar. And since we're partners, it doesn't bother me that we actually mix our pot of investors because we're doing so much stuff together. So
yeah, you'll just go into it like, regardless of what each of us raise, this is what it's going to be.
Look at like Trump, just because it has Trump's name on it, he doesn't own the vast majority of those.
No.
He'll take 30%, 20%, 10% of them, brand his name, and there's an investment group behind that actually is a lot of people that are getting wealthy behind that. And so we've kind of adapted a very similar model where, yes, we are the brains and the driving force behind it, but in scale, we can do so much more if we have resources. So we'll market it. We'll do a webinar and use the personal brand. That's the whole point behind my personal brand, is to be able to raise capital.
Okay.
And then I leave it up to a couple strategic partners that I have to lure those people in and educate them on the entire business model and bring in the capital for us. So there's I'll just give you like my story. So when I first started out, I was the same way. All I did was raise debt. And, I was mainly flipping houses, though, so it's a little bit different. And all I did was raise debt to flip houses. And then, I started buying rentals and single family, and I just ran the same process. I'm like, hey, instead of flipping it, I'm just going to refi and burr it, here. And investors never cared. And then I started raising for multifamily. And, I saw that, okay, well, if you want people's money for 5 years, 10 years, it's much harder to raise than for a flip. Yeah.
Because it's just like, even though the upside could be greater, having liquidity tied up that long is a harder sell than, hey, I just need your liquidity for 3 months, 6 months, whatever.
It is.
And so I started to understand, because here's my mindset. When you're used to getting 100% of the deal and you're just raising debt, you're like, wait a minute, why are all these guys doing like 80-20 and the investors are getting 80%? We're doing all the hard work. And I never understood it for a long time until I just started to understand scale and why they do it. And it's like, okay, I now understand why they do it, because if you ever wanted to do 100 million plus a year, you're raising at 80-20. You could raise mom and pop and everything else at, whatever you're able to do. But at scale, it's almost impossible not to.
Yeah, it is. And we don't give, I've never given that much away. But it's because we bring so much value on the back end, we're able to do that, which most people don't have the skill sets. And that's what experience has done for us. Fortunately enough, I've never given more than 50% away of any of my developments. And that's on the high end.
Let me play devil's advocate. Obviously, as a developer, you make fees in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can make your development fee, your management fees, your acquisition fees, all these different fees, right? Would you be better served doing 80-20, but doing 10x the volume and still making your fees on 10x the stuff?
We don't, because the way we partner with them, we don't even charge each other's fees.
No, I know, but at that point you would.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, if we did that, we would definitely.
You have to at that point.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Because then you can't run your infrastructure in your office otherwise, And that's the thing with why we don't now, is because we have so much upside internally, is that we can still afford to run our infrastructure of staff,
because you get all the upside.
Yeah, because we have the upside. So we don't have the need, but it's business just like anything. So once we give away that much in scale, that fees
they're necessary.
They're necessary, that you have to. You can't afford infrastructure,
Yeah.
to be able to run the machine.
So do you think that, have you ever tried to do the math where you're like, you know what, we're going to build $50 million this year. What if I was able to raise way bigger and do 500 million? And what if I charged 1% here and 1% there? And, I got 20% of the exit. Like, what would I, but obviously you're dealing with way more work and everything too. So, it's like, could you even handle, or do you even want to handle that much?
Yeah, so I've thought about it, and we've ran some numbers, just real soft underwriting numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm in a different place than most people right now. So I've been at this game for 30 years, right? So now, what's important to me is the promises I made to my wife, and the promises I made to my wife, because my wife's like, she's just seen me work forever. And she knows I love the game, but my kids are getting ready to go to college here in the next few years. My son in 2 years, my daughter in 5 years. And so she goes, I just want to be able to have the freedom and flexibility, not be tied down to an office and the employees and everything. I want to be able to pick up and go where our kids go to college, where we, wherever they're living, we want to be able to have houses and just have the resources of time, and not the resources financially, but time to be able to do that. And if I bog myself down where I have all this infrastructure that I've had my entire career, then I fail what's most important, and that's my wife, our family, and the real goals of making all this money, right? Because the game's great. I love it, but I want to do it remote. And if that means that I got to give up a little bit of the growth in order to do that, I'm willing to do that at this point in time. We've made a lot of money. We're good. Like, I don't have to work. I love the game.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. So, and that's the whole point of the Wealthy Way podcast, right? Is to help people see that, right? That it's not just about top line revenue or even bottom line. It's like, why are you even starting the business you're starting? What are you like? What's your real priority? What's your real goal? People don't even know.
No, they don't. And so, like, is my goal to be a billionaire? We could drive this to $1 billion business easy, real easy. But do I want that much workload on myself in my 50s is the real question. You know? Is the sacrifice that I have to do to get there worth it? And we may grow there anyways, I kind of there's a level of faith you got to put into everything, right? And if you're doing the right things, I believe that God's going to just kind of take you in the direction that you should be going. Because I've always been a hard worker. Now it's easier when you work hard and diligently to say that than for somebody that doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing. They haven't put in the time or energy. God's not just going to hand it to you, right? Like, it's just not going to fall in your lap. So I say that because I know the work I've put in, and I know the business that we built, and I know the direction we're going. So some of that may happen anyways, just out of what we're already doing, but it's not my goal. My goal is more about like, okay, like I want to make sure, one, my wife is happy, but two, I want what she wants. I want to be with my kids. Like, it doesn't make sense otherwise.
How long you guys been married?
We've been married for 17 years. We've been together for 25.
And how has she been throughout the journey?
She's been great. We have ups and downs like anything. There's times where things are stressful, and she feels like what we do sometimes has been a little selfish at times because she knows what we've been able to do. But then she also understands it. When she feels frustrated with it, it's monetary, and it's like she's human, like everybody, right? But she's been very supportive over the course of time, and she's and she gets it, But she, like everybody, rides on emotion, like we all do at certain points in time. So we, like any marriage, we have our good days and bad days, but predominantly good days. I got a good wife.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, to stick with you for 25 years.
Oh, stick with me. That's right. Yeah.
for all these crazy ideas. And I mean, obviously it's not going to be all roses and all that stuff.
Yeah, it never is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go through ups and downs, and we've been blessed, and the concrete company has given us that. We've always had money, so we haven't struggled in a financial point.
Does she work in the business, or what's her involvement?
She runs the kids mostly. Okay. But I mean, to some level, all wives will be a part of the business to some magnitude, right? So she helps me. And so when you say, is she work in the business? Yeah, to a certain degree, because without her, she'll do stuff that a personal assistant won't and can't do for you, Yeah. So there's always a level that they work in the business, even though she isn't like in there every day. Yeah. She's in there every day.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, like, for me, I'm very fortunate to have my wife, Mindy. We just celebrated 10 years of marriage.
That's awesome.
And she's been with me from the beginning, just like your wife has been with you, before we ever had money or anything, we were broke. And it's interesting because she has always supported whatever I've wanted to do, right? Yeah. But she has also been there to, I want to say, be like that needed governor, like how cars and golf carts and things have governors to make sure it doesn't like go crazy and just burn up and destroy itself. She's always been there for me to be like, hey, let's not do that. And let's just focus on what's important.
Yeah.
Let's spend time together. Let's spend time with the kids. Let's leave. Yeah. Let's do this. And that's been really good for me because it's like helped me develop in who I am today. And also too,
Yeah, 100%.
it's allowed me to get better at business where I'm like, hey, you know what? How do I do both? Like, how do I still grow, but still do these things that are important to me, to my wife, to my kids? And there's just this thing on social media that I see sometimes with entrepreneurs where they're like, hey, you know, if your spouse or your girlfriend doesn't like support you 1000% and your goals and they can't deal with you working 80 hours a week, then you need to like let them go. And I'm like,
crazy. That's
you are an idiot.
Yep.
And every time I hear that advice, I don't care who's saying it. You know, it could be the most big person. I'll be like, you're an idiot. You're a fool. You don't get it.
100%.
Yeah.
You don't. No, because my wife's the same way. I mean, even this weekend, she was worried about a couple things that, little projects with the people. She just doesn't like the people. She has wives have a different, they're keen on stuff and they relate different people to different experiences that we've had in different partnerships or.
Yeah. She's like, this reminds me of that.
Yeah. And they bring that to your attention. So in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I better watch certain parameters of this if I do go down that street. But they do. And even like with the kids, when you come home tired or whatever it is, they help govern a lot, you know, if I'm on the kids too hard.
Yeah.
Or just whatever. But yeah, 100%. Because I even do that with her too, you know, because it's just different personalities and we get each other. So even the kids where they don't understand mom's personality, sometimes you have to tell the kids, hey, that's just the way mom is, right? Like, she's not like dad that I will get in your face and tell you what's wrong. And then 2 seconds later, I'm cool. You know, she's going to wear it for a while.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's a matter of telling her, hey, you can't do that to the kids. Like, you've done that to me. It's hard. They don't get it. Right. And then she does the same back. And so I think a little bit of that give and take from both ends is important throughout a course of any marriage.
Yeah. And I just want people to hear that because right now there's probably some entrepreneurs listening who are like, man, if my spouse just supported me more, I'd be doing it. And my advice to you is no, you'd be doing it if you actually did what you're supposed to do. Right.
That's right.
You know, your spouse, you don't need this unwavering support from your spouse if you haven't done anything yet. You know, like, do you think that Mindy supports me because of just happy-go-lucky support and like, no, it's from over time having success, failing and bouncing back, dealing with it, continuing to just push forward. That now, do you think her faith and her trust in me is much higher today than it was 10 years ago when I first started? Absolutely. Like, track record and resume proves that. So if like you've been, 100%. I call it in baseball, we call them slapdicks, just people that just do stupid crap all the time. They're like, man, I can't believe, why is all this bad stuff happening to me? Why does nobody trust me? Why does nobody believe? Well, because you're a slapdick. Why would anyone believe in you? Yeah. So change yourself and then maybe your spouse will support you more. They didn't just not support you out of nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's the biggest problem. Like when you get clients, like even that come in and you're teaching them what you do and they go, well, I got to check with my wife. The reason they have to check, like out of respect, my wife would expect me to at least talk to her about it, right? Like I just won't go do it, but I don't need my wife's approval because she believes in me. Like I don't have to sit back and go, can I do it? And the reason that a lot of men, I think, have to do that is because time and time again, they've spent, but they've never executed. They've never had any level of success because they've never went to the finish line with anything.
Yep.
So my wife knows, like, if I do something, I'm going to the finish line with it.
Exactly.
You know?
And my wife also knows too. She doesn't hear me throw out just crazy things.
No.
Like she knows that if I've come to something and a conclusion and she's like, all right, he's thought about this and this is not something out of the blue. Like he's going to do it. And I can't really even stop him. So I might as well support him.
Yeah. When I said I was going to go build $70 million ground up buildings, I didn't like happen overnight. I studied it. She saw me, she saw me studying it and she saw me investing time on Saturday mornings when everybody was asleep and I'm waking up at 6 a.m. while everybody's sleeping until 8, 9 o'clock. And I'm studying that stuff. And it took me 2 years to really, from 2016 to 2018, to really figure out like how to do it. So it took time and everybody wants it like overnight. And then I built one and it took another 2 years. I worked for 4 years for free before I made $1. But I was moving in that direction. It was methodical. I had a business plan. I had a business model. I knew what I was doing. You know, and then all of a sudden people go, okay, he had instant success. Yeah, I built a $70 million. It took me 4 years to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but I got it.
Yeah.
You know, it took some time. So.
No, that's so true. So let's talk about just the ground up game, right? So the first step is identifying land and entitling. Walk me through what exactly that means.
Finding the land or entitling?
Both.
So
because obviously you got to like be looking for land that you know you can.
That's the hard part
entitle.
for the level of construction that we're doing. That's the hard part for us. That's probably the hardest out of anything that we do is sourcing the right piece of land. So that comes down to relationships. We get all this stuff when we finally find stuff. We're out there, so you got to plant seeds. You have to be in it. And I always explain like harvesting a garden, right? Like you throw down a bunch of seeds, but not every seed harvests for you, right? You got to be out there playing the game at its highest level. And when I started in this part of the game, I was meeting with multifamily brokers all over in every city that I wanted to that I thought I wanted to develop in. I was meeting with them, and I nurtured relationships. And I didn't even do business with these guys for multiple years, but I would go into town. I would share with them the success of other projects that I was doing that were similar, that they had no financial gain in, and I just built relationships. So sourcing land has been, I've used my social media as a tool where I put out there what I'm looking for. So I found stuff in the most random places. And I'm always selling my business model out there in everything I do, to brokers, at lunches, for coffee. Anytime I have free time, I make sure that time isn't free. I make sure that time is used when I'm traveling, like even now, right? Like if I'm going to stay here, I'm going to do this podcast. I schedule another podcast, and I'm just going to make the best use of my time. So I do that with my contacts. So I will go into town, and if I have a little gap, I'll sit down with one of my brokers. And if I won't use it, where I'll sit down and do stuff behind a notebook I can do in the office, it's relationships. So then, and it's paying attention to what's coming in, right? So when something comes, you got to be able to underwrite and recognize that it's good. 90% or better is horrible, what comes to us. But then when something comes in, recognizing, and the only way that that's going to happen is by underwriting stuff. And people feel like it's a waste of time, but we will sit down and I will understand this stuff inside and out and forward and backwards. So when a deal comes to my table, I don't miss it. Because if you're not underwriting, you're not looking at this stuff, how do you recognize when you really have something that you need, right? So sourcing the deal, that's how we source our deals. And when they come, we know when we need to execute timely and effectively.
Yeah. You know what I found about commercial real estate that's tough, because commercial real estate's new to me. I've been in it now for a little less than 3 years. I was mainly focused, obviously, on single family, specifically flipping and wholesaling. And what's clear is it is a relationship game in the commercial space. And I like it and I don't like it because there's no like quick way to get in.
There's not.
You know, because like me being such a good marketer, I'm like, oh, dude, I can take over this market. Like, we're going to do X, Y, Z. I know exactly how to blast it every way you could market.
Yep.
And I could go take over a market in like lots of industries if I wanted to with my skills. But commercial real estate is not like that. You don't go direct to seller, really. Like it's all broker based, and they all got relationships that have been for years and years built. Now, obviously, having a social media following,
it helps.
Gives me a big edge, right?
Does.
If I actually want to go take the time to build the relationship, but then again, it's a lot of work, and I got other things I could do.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we still do a little bit of residential. That's why I still do a few ground up residential every year, because that stuff just I'm able to pull those out of the ground, even through what we went through with high interest rates over the last few years. I've continued building single family homes because we'll make $250,000. And if I do 5 or 6 of those a year, I'm making over $1 million just building a few homes. And they don't take a lot of time. That's
just you like building a ground up home, flipping it.
Yeah. Just building it and just selling it. You know, so we've been doing that since 1999, and it took us through the 2008 recession. That's how we bought our Subway stores cash. That's how we were able to buy real estate in Phoenix at a time when our cash flow from our business was low. We just adjusted the business model a little bit, took a little lower profits, but we continued profiting.
Yeah.
And so having that tool on the residential end has been advantageous in so many ways. It isn't just the concrete company, it's that diversification, because the concrete company continues to cash flow, but you need some large wins in that to have big gains too. So when you get $250,000 out of a house and you have 2 or 3 of them sell, you know, now you can start moving some mountains a little bit. When you have $500,000, $750,000, you can go tie up a $2 million piece of commercial land to turn it into a $5 million, $6 million piece of commercial land that then you can collateralize into a $20, $30, $40 million development.
Yeah.
You see? So they're all tools, right? And I look at everything that we do like a toolbox, and you don't get a crescent wrench and build a house with a crescent wrench, right? But you need it at some point in time. Same thing, you can't build a house with just a hammer or just a saw. You need a little bit of all of it. So I look at everything that we do as tools. But in the commercial space, that's what really is going to set us up with passive income. That's real passive income, you know, that, you know, it pays in so many different ways. It keeps us from paying income taxes. It helps us with our cash out refis where we get big wins, but then the cash flow on the back end, we just keep them and they just continue to generate revenue for us month after month.
Yeah. So I did a presentation at my last WealthCon where I just talked about how 2023 was a really difficult year in real estate for me.
Yeah.
Just because I had so many house flips that ended up losing money. And I just basically went through, hey, here's how, you know, I got through it and how I was able to.
That stuff is great though for people to hear.
Yeah. I talk about wins and losses. If I make a boatload of money, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
If I take a fat punch in the face, you're going to hear about it.
We've all done it though, man. And like 2023 wasn't a great year for me. I started off the year saying, I'm going to do $160 million worth of development this year. We got 27 million out of the ground, which, you know, we still made money, right? So, but it's going to all come now in 2024. Just banking sucked, you know, like I just couldn't, we had projects.
A lot of things you can predict.
Yeah. You know, so to be smart, we didn't push it. We push as hard as we can push. And then you have to let the external circumstances really help you adjust to what you're doing. And so we're going to be busy this year in 2024. It's going to be an extremely busy.
That's what I see for us too.
Busier than I want to be, but hey, you know, it's going to be a recovery of what we couldn't push forward through in 2023.
Yeah.
Still a successful year. We got a lot done. We cleaned up our projects. We made a lot of financial decisions to really make our projects more profitable in 2024, which we wouldn't have done. We would have just built them, and then we would have figured it out
after.
We always do, you know?
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes. When you're busy, you just do that.
Yeah.
But I was able to clean up. Like I took a whole interior corridor, 4-story, 208 unit development, and I made it open air. Took it all out because I had time to think about my NOI. I had time to think about the stabilization of what we're going to be paying. And since we weren't turning dirt, I made the architects go to work. Cost me a few $1,000, but it'll save me thousands and make me millions over the course of time.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do stuff like that. So I still made good use of my time.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make our projects even better because we're going to keep these forever. So you know, some years just don't go the way you think they're going to go. You know. You just got to keep pushing.
Yeah. The one thing I did, and I'll link that presentation down below, guys, so you can watch it after. But the one thing I talked about was, you know, the biggest lesson I learned on how I got through it was that in real estate, you got to have different cash conversion cycles on just all these different things you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Because like whenever I look at developers, I'm like, dude, that is a risky business. Just like, you know, you get a deal and then you don't really get paid for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, how do these guys like pay the bills every month? And then if there's a downturn and they got to keep getting the next deal, and then by the time it's year 5, hopefully thing is paid off. And I was like, look, here for me anyways, the only reason we got through it was, all right, you know, I just had all these different cash conversion cycles happening at once. And so it was like, okay, you got these flips and, you know, these were bought at a totally different time before rates happened. And now by the time they convert, it's not looking too great. And that is what it is. I'm going to have to just wear it. How am I going to offset it? Well, I better get really good at wholesales and novations to bring in the cash that's going to cover the loss, right? Thankfully, too, you know, I built up a rental portfolio, and it's like, all right, which rentals can I sell that have got some equity? Okay, this one's got a few $100,000. Let's sell that.
Yeah.
Let's sell this. You know, you sell off a few of your, you know, nest eggs to cover the loss. And because it's like, look, I can accumulate rentals whenever I want. It's not a huge deal. Like, what's even the point of having them at the end of the day? Like, I ain't living off cash flow from them.
Yeah.
You know, they've appreciated so much, and they were tax things. So anyways, you do things like that. You get good at wholesale. You get good at novations and creative finance stuff. And I just basically walked them through. I was like, hey, the shortest cycle in real estate would be wholesale. The next would be in wholesale, you get paid next week.
Yeah.
A flip, let's just say it's 3 to 6 months. A rental, let's say if you're really going to cash out, you're looking a couple of years. A development is 5+ years. Same thing with apartments. You're not selling them next year. Like those are like your long horizon. But like you said, if you have just these big pops that keep coming along the way, because you keep planting the seeds of big pops, and a big pop would be a rental property from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
An apartment, a development, a new build house flip. All of a sudden you start getting these big pops and you're like, all right, cool. Like that was nice.
Yeah. Cause we got a phone call from one of our lenders, and he goes, you guys need to show $5 million of additional liquidity. And I go, so we just need to show $5 million of liquidity or $5 million additional. I was like, cause we already have the 5 million more. And he goes, no, 5 additional million more. I was like, by when? He's like, well, be nice to show it in the next 30 days, right? So me and a partner, we're like sitting back, okay, where do we get $5 million liquidity? So we creatively are able to get $5 million worth of liquidity. And it's from big pops like that. So I'm like, you know what? This project is supposed to end in March, but let's see if we can push it to get it out of it, even if I have to take a little bit of a shavings off of it and sell it by January. And we start freeing up capital, right? And so we built that over the course of time, obviously. That doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Most people can't just free up $5 million in 30 days.
No.
But
especially in real estate.
Yeah, especially in real estate.
Like you want to go sell stock. Like, okay, you can.
Well, the stock is considered liquidity, if you have it. If you have and I actually use stocks as a tool for real estate. So that's actually part of my liquidity is my stocks.
Explain that.
Yeah. So this has been a great tool for me. The banks love it. I'll invest in stocks. I only buy big blue chip stocks, and I only buy dividend paying stocks. And the reason why is because I'll leverage my capital sometimes on my stocks. I'll get a quick loan on it to buy a piece of land, and I'll leverage a line of credit against my stocks, and which traditionally would cost me about 5%. Now it's about 7.5%. But I've been since 2001 on average. I make about 11 to 12% a year on my stocks, and part of that is that I'll do anything between a 2 and 6% dividend, and plus whatever the upright is. You know? And so I'll buy stuff like Johnson & Johnson when they were in the lawsuit with talcum powder. And now I'm just writing that sucker up. I just bought a bunch of Boeing for sake of example. There's 2 large plane manufacturers in the world, Boeing being one of them. They're not going anyplace. They're taking a government bailout right now, so they're not paying dividends, but they traditionally pay a dividend. We'll get that dividend, but there's only one way for that stock to go over the course of time because they've taken such a beating, and that's up. We'll invest in like Walmart and stuff like that. And so if I have $5 to $6 million in the stock market, I can just show that is my liquid capital because it can be sold. I own it. As long as I don't have it leveraged with a loan against it at that time. And if I do need to leverage it, I can. And then I just pay it back on a short-term note. Like if I need to buy a piece of land and I have this like 9 months of entitlement, I might leverage a couple $1 million to get the land. If it's something that I have to close on quicker, it's a good deal.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's entitled and I go in for a construction loan, I'm able to put that money back in. I get the money back from the bank, and I replace that money, put it back in the stock market. And now I leveraged it from debt from the bank.
Yeah.
So I'll use it like that instead of getting investor capital, or I'll use it and then get investor capital, and then I take the investor capital, replace it, put my money back, and I use the investor's capital.
Yeah.
So I'll do that stuff like that as well. So I use the stock market because I love having several millions of dollars available to at my disposal at any point in time, because you just never know when the right deal is going to come to the table. And plus my money's working for me 2 ways. So I'm double dipping on the same capital.
You're treating it like a line of credit, but it's also appreciating, and
it's also appreciating
value and dividends.
Yeah, and what I do at the end of the year is my stock guy calls me at the end of the year and he goes, hey, and he calls me more like October, November, and he says, hey, do you have to offset any capital gains? And if I do, and even if I don't, I say I'll take any tax write-offs I can get.
Yeah.
And so if something's not performing, which there's always something that's not performing,
you'll do the tax loss harvesting.
sell it. Yeah, I'm selling. We'll offset the capital gains against something else.
Yeah.
You know, and then repurchase it 30 days later. Or like we were in Exxon Mobil, and I purchased something else in oil and gas. You know, so we'll use it in the same. I'll sell it and then buy something the next day that in oil and gas that's going up. If there's a loss.
No, super smart. So going back to the land, so you're looking for these deals, and you're underwriting them and everything else. Like, walk people through the process. You said, hey, it might take 9 months to entitle it. Like, what exactly does that mean?
So typically I won't even buy the land. I'll tie it up. And like I'm doing one right now. So I'll use the one I'm doing right now as an example. It's called my Cibola Loop project. It's a 185 unit apartment complex that I'm doing in my own hometown. One of the first projects I've done in my own hometown in years. And it's a prime piece of real estate on the west side of town. Like, and what got it for me was my social presence. The brokers knew who I was. And it served its weight in gold in that regards. But I set the purchase up as follows. I said, look, I need 90 days worth of due diligence to make sure that I'm even going to get support from the city to do what I need to do. I need to downgrade the zoning. There was a retail component in the zoning that I was going to have to do 50% of the first floor in retail, which I didn't want. I wanted to do all multifamily. And so I told them I'll come to the table with $50,000. Day 90, 50 goes hard, and I come with another $50,000. So it's $100,000, but 50 of it, which is non-refundable. And I want 90 days worth of due diligence, and then 120-day close. So I have 7 months to close on the property. So now it's a race. So the second I got these terms, before we even had the agreement worked out, I have my architect working, and we're already doing neighborhood outreach. We're already setting up meetings, informal meetings with the city, letting them know to see if they'll support what we're doing. And so that's the first step, by the way, is you get the city's support, and then we go to work with conceptual drawings, and then we do a formal application for a zone change and entitlements. And so we'll go in with conceptual drawings, which do cost a few $1,000s to do, but we still keep it inexpensive. So for under $7,000, we can go in and put a $55 million project together conceptually. And we go to the table with it and present it. We go do a neighborhood outreach meeting where we see what the neighbors are going to dispute against what we're doing. And then once the city gives us support, then we just go into planning and zoning, and we go for planning and zoning approval. That's usually a couple meetings. That's usually 2 months because there's only a meeting a month. Then once we get planning and zoning to approve our plans, then we go in for city council. And then city council comes in, and they're the ultimate yes or no. And if city council approves it, usually they're looking at everything. They're looking, did we resolve some of the concerns of the neighborhood, or are they going to have people screaming at them in the neighborhood? This is where a little bit of politics comes into play. We'll usually hire lobbyists and as consultants to help us.
I was going to ask you about
this. So there's a little bit of a political ploy, little donations that might have to go.
Yeah, I'll tell you my story in a second. Go on.
So we'll do this all on the front end, because most people start doing this stuff on the back end, not
you do
knowing.
It on the front end. Yeah.
So we already know the process.
Yeah.
So we're already massaging relationships from the front end going into these things and going through this formal process.
Yeah.
And then once we get our city council approval, after all the massaging of political parties and everything else that's going on, then we'll close on the land.
Got it.
And we have to get.
Will you close even if it hasn't been fully entitled or approved yet?
Well, you have to, because you can't get the full approvals till you own the land.
Got it. But 99% certainty you're good.
Yeah, like my Youngtown project that I'm stabilizing right now, we did the exact same process, and that one's finishing. We're renting. We're 50% leased right now, and that one's getting stabilized. And we took that one. We closed on that one all the way to the finish line with entitlements and approvals. And then we closed on that one, and now 2 years later, we're finishing it up.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about the political side of things, because it's interesting, man, because a young guy like me, I really don't care too much about politics, which I don't think many young people do, because it's not like affecting our business at all. But I've met a lot of old school real estate guys, and they're like, Ryan, you need to start supporting these political guys. They're the governors and the mayors and the whatever. And I'm like, why? When do I need anything? He's like, because you're going to need a favor at some point. And I was like, for what? I'm not going to jail or anything. Hopefully I don't do anything stupid. He's like, no, you're going to need a favor for like a deal, not.
Yeah.
And maybe if you did get into trouble, you might need a favor. But he's like, that's just the way the game is run when it comes to getting things approved and everything else. And I'm like, all right, dude, like, who should I donate to? Like, I don't even know. He's like, you start building it now. He's like, I can hook you up with like a lobbyist and, you know, these people, and you pay them on a monthly retainer, and they'll just make sure that people know who you are. I'm like, people already know who I am. What's the deal? And he's like, yeah, but they don't know who you are until you pay them. And I'm just like, man, this is it's a crazy world we live in.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, dude, I was you, man.
But that's politics.
Yeah, that's why I never did business in my own hometown. It would piss me off, you know, that I had to do this, and I resisted it forever. And when we started going in scale, I realized that
it wasn't going to work.
It wasn't going to work. Yeah. So I was like, shit, I should have started playing that game a whole lot earlier.
Yeah.
But we don't do it where we put them on monthly retainers. So I make it all performance based. I do not encourage putting them on monthly retainers.
Got it.
I think that's still all a crock of shit. Make them work.
Yeah.
Only make it production based, and I do it based on what they deliver for me. If they can get me some offsite approval money through some grant money and stuff for my
tax
project, tax incentives, stuff like that, I'll do it. If they can really move the needle to help me with entitlement approvals and stuff, I'll pay them. Like I just paid one $10,000 and then another $10,000 on the back end, so $20,000 to get it done, and that's through. But it's not through the politicians that you're paying. It's the lobbyists and the consulting work, the consultants that you're paying, because they have the relationships, right? It's illegal for the politicians to take the money from you. And so, but you can donate to their campaigns, but there's a threshold, and they're small. It's like $5,000 that their maximum donations are, but you'll host a party for them at your house and bring in some of your wealthier friends or wealthier
other people
donate
to them.
That'll donate and support them, you know. And even if it's not the party that you support, you just support them.
Well, look, I mean, what's the point of a political leader? I guess like everyone has their own agenda, what they want to see get done. It's like, dude,
no, it's funny.
Just get this real estate deal done for me, dude.
Yeah, you don't even know, man. It's funny. Sometimes I don't even know whether they're Republican or Democrat. In all honesty, I'll just be like, they just say this is the person that has this area in city council, and
become friends with them.
You need to become friends with them, and we need their approval, and they're going to talk to the rest of the city council, and and so you do these like weird coffee meetings that are very non-productive but productive, and
it makes me wonder like what Trump had to do, because he's a real estate guy getting so many things approved in New York and around the world, and then like it's obviously become the president too.
Yeah,
like I just can't imagine all the things that he's had to go through the last 40 years.
Well, look at one of his good friends is Giuliani, right?
Yeah,
so like that was at a time in the 90s where Giuliani was like a god in New York, you know, and that's when Trump was just having a heyday. So what did he?
Him and his boys just were able to just go to town and just develop like crazy.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, there's a threshold in that too. You can't just do whatever you want. There's because then you don't get the voters, right? So they're very the politicians are very methodical on how they do things, because they're not just going to approve your stuff. It has to work. It has to follow regulations. There's they're looking at if you piss off all the neighborhoods and your voters, they're not going to vote for you, and you're going to lose. So they're looking to try to what's the best interest of their people, their voters, but also supporting you. And they're trying to mitigate.
But generally, like building these brand new buildings is going to be good for the area. Like they're nice, they're new. People get bent out of shape over just different things, right? Yeah. I mean, you're going to always have local people who just don't maybe understand. I've seen that in Big Bear a lot where, I'm like, do you guys realize that you would have no jobs if there was no Airbnb?
Yeah.
I don't understand why you're thinking this is a good idea to oppose.
Yeah.
But, people are ignorant. It just is what it is.
I always say I'm the people everybody loves to hate, and then they benefit from everything that we bring to them.
That's what I'm saying. They just don't really get it.
Yeah. They don't.
But I just think about, I don't know, just like the game, like you said, that has to get played. It's It's interesting.
It is an
development
interesting game.
stage.
It is a very interesting game. I resisted it forever. I was getting too old to resist it anymore, Ryan. If in this game, if you really want to scale, you've got to. There's a level of embracing that you've got to take. You know, whether you like it or not.
You got to kiss some babies.
Yeah, you do.
So you get it entitled. Obviously, now it's worth way more. Before it was just some like raw land for a single family home or something. I don't know. And now you're going to build 200 units on it. What's the reason for 200 units? Just to make it worth your time, economies of scale, all of it?
Yeah, there's different reasons, right? So one, anything over 100 units, institutions start becoming a lot more interested in the assets.
Better buyers.
Better buyers. The pool of buyers is different. The return on investment, if you ever sell, is a lot greater. And in scale, things are safer. So I always tell people, the more dense you can get a project, the safer it is. For a safe example, this project, I said, okay, we're at 160. What is it going to take to get to 185? And I explained it to the architect like this. So I explained it to you like this. 2 units will pay for the elevator in a 4-story section. I want the vast majority of it 3 stories because of the cost to build, but this one building, why don't we do this one last building higher on the back, and let's go 4 stories, and let's take the density to 185. And if we do that, then two units, prospectively, will pay for the improvements to get it to the 4th story, and the rest of it, and then each unit may cost us $160,000, $180,000 a unit to finish out, but they're going to be worth $300,000 a unit. So now each unit, I have an extra $150,000 worth of upside value that I get to utilize to collateralize into my build that makes my project safer.
My mind immediately goes to, why not just make the whole thing 4 stories?
Yeah, so parking is why. Oh. We don't have the ability for parking. So we don't get so much density because then it takes too much parking lot. We can go 4 stories, but now we don't have the room for parking.
So basically, you're just trying to build the max amount of units for the land that you have.
We are maximizing everything, bro. We will push over parking limits, and then we'll get engineers to say, hey, they're over, but they're not. But according to national averages, they're actually under. And so we'll pay engineers, traffic engineers, to come in and do traffic engineering, saying, I know this is your regulations, but in reality, they're under. Yeah. So we do a lot of that, which is what we're doing on this project. Where we've already pushed. We've pushed every parameter. We've maximized density, and we've squeezed the towel and the juice out of every corner we could.
This is fully maximized at this point. There's nothing more you can build. And the land is and that's where you want to be, right?
Yep, that's where you want to be. Best and highest use.
Got it. You know what I want to be? The more I talk to you about this, is, dude, I just want to be like Trump, where you throw my name on it and then I get money. Yeah. Like, that's the goal, because if you just look at like what like you said, dude, I'll take 10% of the building, just use my name and my likeness, and I'll promote it, and I'll make it up to the Pineda standard, and then let's roll. Yeah. And because I even think about Marriott and any of these big hotel chains, they don't own the hotels.
No, they're franchisees. It's just their flag.
It's just their name.
Yeah.
You're just getting the Marriott name, and you're getting their expertise of how to operationally run it. You're getting their infrastructure with their rewards. Yeah. And
they have a few corporate owned properties, but the vast majority is not corporate owned.
That's where the game's at, dude, in my opinion.
Yeah. But you got to get there, right? So you got to get there. So everything, like I said,
Trump had to build all of his own buildings to get his brand and his reputation. And
I got to look at these 90-year-olds, and I'm like, damn, I'm only 50. I'm still young, Still like, we're moving in that direction, right? Yeah. But you do it because that stuff becomes more passive, and it's just like, that's the game. That's the real game. That's what I'm saying. Like, you build up towards that, and you want to hit the big B word, that's how you do it.
Yeah. Being able to license your likeness, that's the game. I mean, look at Jordan. Yeah. Jordan ain't making his shoes and his clothes. It's like, just unbelievable. Slap the logo and let's rock.
Yep. Dang. Yeah, that's how he had billionaire status. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Man, dude. And he got his own golf court. We need that's actually where I've been actually learning a lot of this, is because I want to build my own golf course and residential community. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, we're going to have to get a piece of land. We're going to have to go through this whole thing that you're talking about. Get this thing zoned for 300 homes and a course. And
the money's in the real estate. Once you sell off all the real estate, just sell the golf course too. Mm-hmm.
just do the whole thing.
Unless you have something that produces cash flow for other than the golf course itself.
Right.
Condos, something. HOA fees, something.
Well, these country clubs make money, dude.
Yeah, because they have they have something else. Well,
I mean, they got members dues every year.
Yeah, it's economy of scales. You got to build something that has those high country club fees.
Oh yeah,
worked into them.
Oh well, no, this is only luxury, dude. So
yeah.
I mean, I was running the math on some clubs I've joined, and I'm like, okay, they got 300 members. I paid $100,000.
Yeah,
that's 30 mil right there.
Yep,
in just that
annually,
and that's just like the first.
Yep,
people, and then they have the monthly dues. Let's just say they're $2,000 a month of 300 members. I'm like, all right, they're making $600,000, in just dues. Then they have food and beverage. Then they
don't make no money on food and beverage.
Okay.
Yeah, I've owned hotels. Their food and beverage sucks.
Well, but they're going to have weddings. They're going to have the big events. Those will make money.
That stuff just covers cost.
Yeah.
So the money's in the subscriptions and in the fees. That's where the money is.
Everything
else just covers. If you can just get them to break even, you're doing good.
Yeah.
I've studied that business so much. I bought a hotel back in 2006. Sold it right before the recession. Thank God. And it was a Howard Johnson. It was just long enough for me to learn that I didn't want to be in that business. So I was thankful. But everybody I talked to, if you can just get the hospitality business, that's what you're in, to break even when you're in the entertainment business, then you're doing good. And so wedding venues, all that, you just want to play the break even game. If you can get it to break even, you just don't lose money on that stuff, you're doing good. It's the subscriptions is where the money comes in.
Yeah.
So you got to have that higher end course where annual fees, monthly fees, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It pays for, that's where your profits come in from.
Yeah. If you could break even on everything else and go make, 10 mil a year off the fees.
Yeah.
That's a good business.
That is a good business.
And then, well, like what a lot of these developers do, I recently learned this, is like, okay, so they develop this 300 home community, right? Well, they go get investors and everything else with it, and so they'll make profit on the actual normal development, but they stay on as the real estate broker. And so they get 3% of each side, of the buy and the sell, and then every resale in the community.
Yeah, they did that to us in Ty Lopez, and I did that in Puerto Rico and in the St. Regis over in the Baja side. And they keep everything in-house.
Yeah.
And it's a Marriott property. You know, that thing.
So imagine if you're getting the annual just resale commissions.
Yeah.
Because now it's like the development, it's a one and done, but not.
Oh, yeah, they hog tie you in that stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to use them.
On the buy and the sell.
Yeah, because especially in markets like that, it's real political. It's small enough that it's real political. You won't sell it if you don't go through them because they'll make sure that
they'll blackball you.
Yeah, it's really hard and difficult.
Yeah. So that's an interesting business model I've been looking at because I'm like, man, there's a lot of ways to make money and build network and build just an epic thing.
Which
and
is
it's passion.
Fun too.
Yeah, it's like passion for me at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If your passion can go make a bunch of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why, new development versus just buying existing buildings, fixing them up, stabilizing them and everything else?
For me, it was because the syndication model, when you buy them, you got to give up 70% of the asset to do it. Plus, I would have to raise a lot more money. And at the time when I was doing it, I got to go in. If I buy a $70 million property, I got to raise $14 million on an 80% loan to value, right? Mm-hmm. So that's $14 million. When I first started doing this, I was like, damn, I didn't have the bandwidth to raise $14 million. But I could go buy a piece of land for $1 million and turn it into a $5 million piece of land.
Because the entitlement, that's your value.
I only have to raise $2 million to do the same $50-60 million property.
Yeah.
Plus, then I'm able to get my bandwidth, my band of entry I was able to get into the game.
Yeah.
So I had to put in more work. So the ground up game for sure is a lot more work, but my upside potential is so much greater. And I've been able to retain 100% of them too, doing it the way I do it, which.
How would somebody get into the ground up game?
They have to resume into it, right? So it's one of those things where the way I compare it is like to college. You go into college, you spend 5 years for a 4-year degree, most people, and what do you get out of it? A $60,000 a year job? That's what the average person getting out of college gets. So I tell them, learn the single family residential ground up game, right? And you'll make 6 figures doing it. And when you do that, it puts you in a position where now you can go, there's economy of scale. So you can, once you do one home, you never want to do one again because it's a waste of time. You want to do a minimum of 2 at a time.
Yeah.
Because it takes you just as much management
Buy a
time
subdivision.
to do 2.
Just knock them all out.
And I don't know if a subdivision, if you want to do that, I always tell people 8 to 12 a year is perfect. Any more than that, you start to manage the beast.
Yeah, a little cul-de-sac.
Yeah, just a little cul-de-sac, carve a street out. If you want to do 8 homes, 10 homes, 12 homes, nothing more than that.
We got some students in our program who have been doing that, and they've been doing great.
They crush it, man.
He's like, I don't even want to flip anymore, dude. Like, I'm just doing this.
That's all. I still do that because they're simple. The risk is not very high.
Do you feel like the risk is a little higher in that just because I don't know where things are going to be 2 years from now when it's
like in development?
Yeah.
You got to build a business model that's recession proof.
Okay.
And what I mean, there's nothing 100% recession proof, right? But the problem is people try to push deals and they try to convince themselves that it's a good deal, even if it's not. And they try to make the numbers work, even when they don't. You got to push a deal to break. And if you can push that deal and it still doesn't break, then it's a good deal.
Stress test it.
Yep, and that's why it's so hard to find the right piece of land. That's when
because you're just 99% of them suck.
Yeah, 99% of them suck. They won't do the press test. Like, I'll tell you my Youngtown project. I bought a building in Youngtown, Arizona, which is right by Peoria, for $1.8 million. It was listed for 1.6. I paid a wholesaler $200,000. The bank thought we were friggin' crazy because it had been in the market for 4.5 years.
Whoa!
And they told us, you're overpaying for this asset. It's been they called us. You do know this property's been in the market for 4 years, right? Why would you overpay $200,000 for this property? And I said, no, you don't understand. We're going to turn this into 104 units of apartments. And I said, you can't look at it as an office retail play because the office is dead. It was only 30% leased. And so he only gave us $700,000 for the loan to buy the office. And I leveled part of the building, turned the rest of it into 44 units of apartments, and went vertical with 60 more units. And I spent just shy of $3 million renovating the 44 units. Spent another $7 million building out the 60 units, and we're into the whole thing for $13 million, including debt service. And we just got it appraised for $31 million. Woo. We're going to do a cash out refi with a HUD loan in this shitty market, and we'll take $5 million out, have the rest of the equity, and that thing will cash flow $450,000 a month for us on our NOI after our debt service.
Wow.
Our bottom line after debt service will be $450,000 a month.
That's crazy.
In this shitty market, right? So we thought it was going to be worth $37 million. And really, the loan, they're looking at it, they're appraising it now closer to $27 million, because when we looked at it, 31. But still, $5 million out in this shitty market. I'll cash that thing out again in 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, at a lower rate with more cash.
Yep, and that thing will just produce for me forever. And I've done cost segregation on that thing, and so we're not paying no taxes, nothing.
Explain to me how the wholesaler was able to. Okay, this property's on the market. Nobody wants it.
Yep.
How did the wholesaler have the skill, I guess, to say, actually, because he just had experience and he said, hey, I know Jerome will know how to figure this. How did that happen?
Well, the gentleman the wholesaler that bought it from me, he also did adaptive reuse, but in retail and office. And you probably know him. I don't know if you know John Trotman.
Okay.
You know John?
I don't know.
No. Anyways, was very capable of taking it. He just didn't know my whole business model. He hadn't done anything this big, but he knew me. He knew that I was going to make some money on it. So he was just stubborn. He was able to strong arm me. And so that really was what it came down to. I mean, I tried everything I could to take it down for under that. And I just wasn't moving any needles with him because he had it tied up. And he's like, well, I'll just do it myself.
So this dude had it tied up, even though it had been locked up forever or been on the market forever. Finally, he sees the potential of it, locks it up, goes to you, says, this is the deal. I know what it is. You know what it is.
Yep.
We're the only two that apparently know what it is.
Well, I took too long is what happened.
Okay.
I took too long. And he knew I was up to something. So because I took too long studying the deal on his dime, he started putting 2 and 2 together.
Because we were doing Jerome must really like
because we were doing hotel conversions, right? So he knew that I was like, and so I think there was some mutual contacts, and the broker kind of heard us talking at the property, and I think it kind of got back to him. So over communication was bad. On
you
that
showed
deal.
your cards too much.
Yeah, I showed my cards. I showed my but at the end of the day, no one's feeling sorry for me.
Heck no,
no
dude.
one's feeling sorry for him.
Yeah, he made us 200 G's. You guys are making freaking 10 plus million.
So it's all good.
So that was basically your version of an adaptive reuse with the office. And is that what you're trying to do here with all your office space
all
or
that
what?
stuff, I mean, we'll do, I did a bowling alley in the Northwest. We tore it down. I mean, it's just.
Oh, you took a bowling alley, knocked it down.
Yeah, knocked it down. I mean, so it's.
What do you think's going to happen with all this office space?
Dude, they're going to need to do adaptive reuse on all this stuff. I mean, that's what we're waiting for. If you're the guy and you know how to do it, we'll turn it into warehouse. We'll do it. We'll turn it into storage. We'll turn it into fulfillment centers. I'll turn it into whatever there's profit that's going to cash flow. And it doesn't just have to be apartments, right?
So you think just everyone will just turn into something else? It sounds like you're like naming every asset class.
Well, I mean, it depends where it's at.
There's the middle of the city is not going to be a warehouse.
Yeah, they may approve it. That's where your political relationships and all this stuff comes into play when you're going to city council and zoning and knowing what you're doing, knowing what they're gonna approve, and having business models, right? So for somebody coming in that's never done any of the above, just keep it simple. Stay in something that is, basic. But yeah, that stuff's going to have to get repositioned into an array of different things. And it might be partial. Like you might keep, there might be a 20-story high rise and maybe they keep retail on the first 3 floors or retail on the bottom floor and 2 layers of office and the rest of it has to get condoed, but it's still an adaptive reuse project.
Yeah.
You just got to pencil and figure it out. You have tenants up on top and it's, you know that thing's been functioning at 30% occupancy. Well, great. Push all those people down, do their TIs, get them on long-term leases. And then the rest of that's never going to fill because it's historically showing its cards, do an adaptive reuse and make it into residential. What's
the best way to make big equity in today's market?
Big equity in what asset class? Just in any asset class?
Yeah, like to create, like you just told me, man, this thing's about to make $450 a month, this reuse. I don't know what your new construction's planning to make or how much value was created from there, but what do you think's the big money thing right now?
Yeah, warehouse is going to be big. I'm building one up in DeKalb, Illinois right now, and I got free land, so I did it. That's a whole different story on how we do that. And it's not free land, it's free land. It is free land, but we bought the building for what it was worth with another warehouse on it, 150,000 square feet of warehouse that was on there with the 26 acres, 13 that was only getting used and 13 vacant acres that we got sold essentially for free. No, we kept it and we collateralized the building that was cash flowing to build it. And so I'm zero money out of pocket, collateralized the asset, the cash flow from the asset, and took the 13 acres and just paid for the entitlements. And now we're building another 160,000 square feet. So I'll have 310,000 square feet for the price of 150,000 square feet.
Wow.
So we'll do stuff like that. That's getting ready to go into. It was supposed to come out this year, next year. That's one that got pushed over. So warehouse is going to be big. Housing, man. Housing is big and affordable housing.
What's your definition of affordable?
A lot of it's based on AMI, right? So it's all based on average income for your area, and it's the average median income. But you take a look at it, we call it attainable housing. So workforce, like okay, where are the average person like even some of your staff, right? Like where are those people that are making under $100,000 a year going to live? How about the people down at the grocery store that are checking out your groceries? The clerk down at the post office. Where are the people that are delivering your Amazon boxes? Where are they going to live, right? It's becoming expensive. And we are pushing into a renter's nation, and there's not enough rooftops. So attainable housing is important, and you can create more adaptive places to live that are attainable for people through adaptive reuse projects. The cities are even doing them. I just read an article where the city of Albuquerque just bought an old hotel, and they're doing it. Yeah,
so it sounds to me like you're pretty bullish in 2024 on just pretty much most sectors of real estate.
If it makes sense. I mean, I'm still more bullish in the housing market in multifamily.
Okay.
And we do
because most people don't like multifamily and commercial right now. They think things are going to go crazy and just plummet because all these loans coming up due and all this stuff.
Yeah, they are, and it's bad. But see, what the difference is that we didn't get crazy when everybody was getting crazy.
Yeah.
So now the cards are exposed to you. So if the cards are exposed to us and you know how to migrate around those cards and you know how to move forward, before we went into it blindfolded, right? So that's why it was so dangerous, is that people are doing these 5-1 arms. Syndicators were expecting to hold an asset for 3 years, maybe 5 years at the most. And then they get to that fifth year and the interest rates go through the roof. They're fucked. They're screwed, man. They can't do nothing.
Yeah.
You know? You can't refinance it. Cap rates land up going up. Values get crushed because of it. And that's what I talked about on Friday. As I said, that's where opportunity comes from. You take the same asset, but the cap rates go up, the values get crushed. The banks don't even want to look at it because they can't even underwrite it. And so where do you go? You can't. The banks are taking a scrub on it. You're taking a scrub on it. And so when you build it, and if you underwrite it in the current market conditions, knowing that we're sitting at a 7% cap rate, and if I can't build it at a 7% cap rate, then I can't build it. Then the project's no good. You just don't do it. But if you can build it, and I go into it knowing that I may build it, but I'm not pulling no cash out. I'm only making my cash on cash return on my monthly cap rate and the cash flow that comes in. And so I may build that whole asset and make nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like I even have one this year that I said, you know what, I've owned the land since 2007, and I'm going to collateralize the land, and I'm not even going to pull my money out on the land, and I'll probably just build it for free. And know that, but in 5 years from now, no one's going to be feeling sorry for me because we're going to cash out on those things big time, and I'll just keep doing it over and over and over again over the course of time.
Yeah. No, I love it.
So, you know, I'll work for free. As an entrepreneur, we do that a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
So, you know, but obviously we have an ulterior motive. It's going to come.
Yeah. Actually, many times we don't work for free. We actually pay to work.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah, there's a lot of times we do pay to work.
Yep.
You know,
we get paid nothing, but we're coming out of pocket,
forking it out.
Yeah,
yeah, to build your office, to build the infrastructure.
Yeah.
You know, to do all that stuff.
Putting out social media content is free, but it don't cost me free.
Yeah, it doesn't
cost
cost
a lot
free.
of money.
It costs a lot of money to put that stuff out.
Yeah,
it's one of the most expensive, time-consuming businesses out there.
Yeah,
you know?
Cool.
So,
well, bro, I learned a ton. I actually want to partner with you on a deal, so we'll have to talk about that after, because I want to learn the game and understand how you're doing it from the inside. And it's super exciting. I know one day I want to get into development because I just love creating new things, and I love new.
It's a fun game.
Yeah. So I'm excited to check out your projects and, you know, just see how you're doing it firsthand, man.
Yeah.
So for anyone who wants to follow you, where can they find you?
Pretty easy to find. You know, I'm sure we'll have my name in the show notes.
Yep.
And if you guys go to any social media platform, just plug in Jerome Maldonado. We got hacked on Instagram last year, so now it's the Jerome Maldonado.
There we go.
And
the real.
Yeah. And everywhere else, just Jerome Maldonado. Pretty easy to find. You guys can Google me.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this episode about new construction. I learned a ton. I'm sure you did too. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.